Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. Stop asking. How are you doing? Listen to this episode to see where this came from. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, sales trainer, consultant, author, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have a little more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I think I saw this on somebody else's reel or somewhere online where somebody said, I wish the telemarketers would stop asking, how are you doing, when they really don't care. And I get the same thing. Somebody calls up and that's the first thing. Somebody I don't know, and they're asking how I'm doing. You don't know me. Do you really care how I'm doing? I shouldn't say that. Maybe you do. Maybe you're just an empathetic person and you do care how I'm doing. But it's a question that serves no purpose in that particular situation. As opposed to something that might be more relevant to that situation. So if you've heard me talk about different books, one called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, the former chief hostage negotiator of the FBI. I think it was the first audiobook I ever listened to twice. And they said, if you want to get a real yes, you could get somebody to say no, such as, hi, is now a bad time? And if they say, no, it's fine, that's a real good yes. Because he said there were three kinds of yes. There was a counterfeit yes, where they say yes, but they don't mean it. There was a confirmation yes, where they mean it, but you kind of have to hear them say yes a couple of times. And a commitment yes, where it's yes, I mean it, and there you go. And that no of, no, now's a fine time is really a commitment yes. But that throwaway line there. So if you're meeting with couples, and I know a lot of you know, how did you meet and stuff like that, it's fine if you're going to get some information that might help you. But think about follow-ups, like when you're having other conversations with them, instead of how you doing, it could be, hey, what's new and exciting for you, right? Maybe that's something that you might get there instead. But the people that think about how many people have asked you, how are you doing, when you know they really don't care, and it's just this line. It's kind of like in your emails when you've heard me say not to say congratulations on your recent engagement. Right. The first time they see that, it's very nice. The sixth, seventh, eighth time, it's a throwaway line. It's getting in the way of your message there. So start out better. And I know I've spoken about this, written about this, consulted and trained about this. I prefer you say, start your messages with something like, thanks for reaching out, of having me help you with, and then a results-based statement. So if you're a photographer, thanks for reaching out, for having us help you capture the beautiful images and sights and emotions from your wedding, right? That would be a better opening line than congratulations on your recent engagement, which doesn't get them any closer to photography, right? So this got prompted enough for me to write this on my spreadsheet where I put these thoughts about the podcast put there, and stop asking, how are you doing? And it probably happened to me that day as well, where somebody was like, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I know you really don't care, right? Can we just get to this? Now, maybe I'm more direct than some people. Maybe it's where I grew up. I grew up in New York. I don't think that's a thing. I think you can be direct anywhere in the world, but it's that line really has no bearing towards why I'm here and what we're doing. So let's make it a little more specific to that. So just think about the next time you just reactively just say to somebody, how are you doing? Right. And I don't mean when they say to you, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. How are you? Right. Could we get past that? Is there a better opening line? Is there something better to say? Maybe this was just a soapbox episode, but next time somebody says to you, how are you doing? Just think about it. Was that necessary? Did they really care? Did they want to know the answer? I used to call my grandmother when I was on the road doing sales, doing outside sales. In the car, I would call my grandmother sometimes because I didn't get to see her often because we were about 60, 70 miles away. And I'd call up and I'd say, Grandma, how you doing? And she would start telling me. Now, she was well up into her 80s then. She passed at 92, so she might have been close to that even. And she would start telling me about what her, all the ailments that she had going on, which probably weren't that different from the last time we spoke. So I would stop her and say, humor me. And she would change, her tone would change. I could hear her smiling on the other end of the phone, and she'd go, "I'm doing great, darling. How are you?" Right. So that became our thing. All right. Our shtick, if you will. If you know what a shtick is, it's our little gimmick between us. And I'd say, "How you doing?" And she would start to tell me. I'd say, "Humor me." And she'd say, "I'm doing great, darling." That became just our little thing between us, because I did care how she was doing, but I probably already knew that already from my mother. And at her age, it was the same ailments that were ailing her the last time that I spoke to her. So did I care? Yes. But it was, again, I'm saying, "How you doing?" I probably could have had a better question for her. I'll give you another example of this. If you have children, your children go to school, they come home, and you say, "How was school today?" And they say, "Good." And say, what did you learn? Nothing. What did you learn, or what did you do? Nothing. Well, I think you did something. You were there for 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours. So I learned to ask my sons a different question. Instead of "How was school today?" I'd say, "What was the most fun thing that happened at school today?" And then you would hear the thing that humored them. You would hear them talk about Billy's, spit milk out of his nose because he laughed so hard, or somebody did something and it was funny, right? We're having a conversation about something that happened instead of "How was school?" Good. What did you do? Nothing. Right. And you've probably heard that from your kids if you have them. So let's learn to ask better questions, questions that get people talking. Another good one is if you're in a networking event and you ask someone, for the first time you meet them, and what do they do? Ask them, "What do you love about that?" And watch them light up. If they do love something about it, hopefully light up and tell you the passion about what got them into what they do and what they love most about it. It's a better question. And by the way, when their endorphins start rushing, then they will feel better about you and like you better, and you'll have a better connection. Okay, getting off the soapbox now. Hope that gave you something to think about. Next time somebody says, "How you doing?" when they probably don't care, you'll think of this. Hi, it's Alan Berg. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or guest, please go to podcast.alanberg.com and you can make your suggestion there. You can also do it at Ask Me Anything, which is a button on that page, or just email me at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. And if you'd like to find out how I can help you with sales training, website review, consulting, or speaking for your group or organization, possibly at no cost to the organization, contact me directly, alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. Thanks again for tuning in.